Today I'm going to demonstrate a provisional cast on using waste yarn. The gray is my working yarn, this blue is my waste yarn, and you should try to use a cotton or acrylic yarn, especially if you're using wool or a natural fiber, or they can sometimes felt together depending on how long your cast on is left sitting. And to begin, we'll just make a quick slip knot to fasten the two ends together. And then holding your waste yarn over your index and your working yarn on your thumb, and taking your needles, you'll want to pull tight on the yarns, and then you'll want to come behind your working yarn and pick up a stitch, and then behind your waste yarn and behind your working yarn and pick up a stitch. Then over the waste yarn, behind the working yarn and the stitch, and behind and pick up a stitch. So there I have 4 stitches. You'll just continue working in this manner until you have the number of stitches on your needle required by your pattern. When you're ready to start working your stitches, you'll just of course turn them around and start working in whatever stitch pattern is used in your pattern. I'll just purl back, and I'll work a few rows and come back and show you how to pick up that provisional cast on. As you can see, I've worked several rows and then bound off my stitches. I also tied my waste yarn ends into a slip knot to keep that yarn from getting accidentally pulled out of my stitches. Now I'm ready to start working on the opposite side of my cast on. So I'm going to undo my slip knot and turn my piece upside down so I'm facing those stitches. Then using my needle, I'm going to start going into those stitches. And once I have them all on my needle, I'll just pull out my waste yarn and start working them. There's all my stitches. Goodbye, waste yarn. And so I'll purl my first row, joining my yarn again. And you will notice as I'm working that every other stitch is presented backwards on the needle. And so you'll want to work those through the back loop. There's my backward stitch. So I'm going to work it through the back loop. The next one's through the front loop. And you'll just alternate back loop, front loop, all the way across until you have knit that first provisional row again, or worked it in whatever pattern stitch you're working. Occasionally the stitches will become twisted around your waste yarn, and so you'll need to work a little harder to straighten those out. But you can see right there's my cast on, and it's pretty close to a seamless change between the two sides.